Hey, good afternoon. I'm in the car. I'm between lessons. I'm just pulled over, coffee break. And somebody asked me the other day if I minded being in the car so much between lessons. So I freelance, so I'm driving from stable yard to stable yard. And it actually brought up a very good point, um, because for me, being able to step into a lesson and just teach isn't really reflective of what it actually is. So there are so many factors and so many influencers over how I teach and what I teach. I think there's a real opportunity to get to the depths of a problem. And when I talk about a problem with a horse, I'm just talking about whatever we feel we need to prioritize most in a horse's development. Often that is looking at those factors, looking at those influences, and seeing, is the thing we're looking at a secondary symptom to the primary problem? So for most of us as dressage riders, that's trying to draw everything back to the training scale and see, is a movement or an exercise or an issue maybe in a test or in a competition reflective of something underneath in the base of training that needs to be addressed. So in those moments between lessons, in the car, on the road with lots of coffee, what I'm actually trying to put into context is all of those factors. So if I've seen a client every week, if I've seen them more than once a week, if it's been a few weeks, have they had downtime in between? Where the horse is in its development, what type of horse it is, what age it is. For us here, because we deal with a lot of weather issues, that's why I'm in the car on a coffee break rather than outside. We have to figure out, have horses had enough turnout? Have they had enough movement in their bodies to be able to cope with whatever we're trying to teach them? Um, are they a little older? Do they have stiff joints? Is there a tradition or a history of a medical injury or a weakness that we need to attend to? And then in amongst all of that, what I try and encourage with riders is remembering that we have a responsibility to think that about ourselves when we present ourselves for a lesson. So if I know I'm having a lesson, most of you will know the big horse I have, I will try and make sure that the 10 days before are the most detailed days that I have. Now, that doesn't mean he's worked for the 10 days before, but I'm really trying to hone down to the nugget of what I'm trying to improve so that I'm fully aware of that when I turn up for a lesson on a Saturday morning or whoever it happens to be with. So that I'm not having to spend that precious lesson time exploring movements to discover something as a surprise that I then need to go away on. So I think that's my responsibility as a rider, is to ensure that I know my horse well enough to know what I need to improve with somebody else's support and help, that I can then go away and work on it on the in-between time. The other thing I'm very conscious of is, for lots of us, horses are our time off. It's our time away from reality, from work, from life. It's our de-stressor. And we have a responsibility to be really conscious of that when we turn up for a lesson. So if it's an evening lesson, I have lots of clients who have a lesson after work. We need some sort of time to decompress after work before potentially then stepping into a lesson. So if we're coming straight from work to a quick change to tack up and get a horse out before it gets dark, or because the arena's busy or whatever, you've got to make sure that your expectation in the lesson, your expectation of your horse or yourself, isn't a little bit unexamined. Let's put it that way. So you're not still in a tense mode. You're not still in a slightly quick-brained mode when you're then plonked on top of your horse. So in those moments, if somebody's having a difficult week, if they've got something going on at work, if they're late in the week, so if I have a client on a Thursday or Friday and they've got a long week or something's happened, I've always said to them, really just check, do you have the right mindset now to be able to take on a lesson? If you're going to use the lesson to de-stress, do we need to knock down the intensity of the lesson? Do we maybe need to take out that finish line and work more on the basics just to ensure that your brain space is there, that there is enough awareness, there's enough attention, there's enough brain energy to be able to deal with whatever we're going to be dealing with. So, stepping into a lesson in teaching is never stepping into a lesson in teaching. It's drawing on the history of the horse, the dynamic between the rider and the horse and I, what we've been working on, what factors might influence it, what goals they've set, and then where I think the rider is, what mindset they have in the moment, and then what factors might influence them. So whether they learn from listening, whether they learn from riding it, whether they want help in between, so that support over the week with videos or theory sessions or finding something for them to read, whether it's going to be giving them the support to explore the top end of the movement or the bravest part of the movement with a little bit of extra outside brain help, or whether it's going to be creating a safe space for them to be vulnerable in that space, to be vulnerable in the training and experiment and know that if it goes wrong, that there's a way through, that there's a safe way to experiment with the training that doesn't disintegrate their horse's mindset. So it's very encompassing. It's very wholesome. It's a challenge. It's a challenge that I relish, and I'm hoping that it's a challenge that clients are up for too.